Hey everyone, John from ARTV. It's time for a review of the 8th studio album by Canadian sister duo Tegan and Sara. The new album is called Love You to Death. That is some intense love. They've been around since the mid to late 90s. I didn't really get into them until like 2007, 2008. I heard their song The Con, picked up that album, and yeah, started kind of casually listening to them ever since then. I can't say that I've ever been a huge fan, and while The Con remains my favorite album by them, I think to date, I have gone back and checked out some of their earlier material, and of course, newer stuff like Heartthrob that came out in 2013 as well, but there wasn't anything beyond like a few songs that was like really sticking for me. I think I need to spend some more time with it because with this new album, I think time is what did it justice for me. I'm really enjoying this project. The duo once again teamed up with producer Greg Kurstin, and this time I think with even more explosive results. This is a very enjoyable synthpop record. The band definitely have strayed away from their rock and kind of indie roots and have moved in much more of a pop direction, and I think some people are going to be on each side of the fence. Some people like the rock side, some people like this electronic style, and I say that I kind of ride the line. I like a little bit of both, and this album stays consistent to what it wants to do. It's dance floor ready, but it's also kind of like an emotional roller coaster, seeing the highs and lows of relationships. Now, not that it makes that much difference on the majority of these songs, but you will notice on some of these songs just the protagonist being mentioned in the tracks, and like of course boyfriend as well. Both of the sisters are lesbians, and if you haven't really looked into the band that much, you might not know that, and it might change the way that some of these songs hit you. And they've been big advocates in the community for a long time. Always give a lot of praise to them and credit just for, I think, standing up at a time when it wasn't so popular to do so. I mean, they've been out and open for a long time now. And that's something that I just figured I would throw out there because it does play into some of these songs. And I want to talk about the lead single, Boyfriend, first. I like this song a lot. I actually didn't hear any of the songs before this album came out, and Boyfriend was one that instantly jumped out to me. And then whenever I saw that that was released as a lead single, I said, yeah, that makes sense. Either that or U-Turn, two of my favorite tracks on this record, the latter of those, which I will get to in just a minute because I have a lot of praise to bestow upon that one. Boyfriend is a track that sees the main protagonist here being kind of like in a little bit of a confused state because they're in love with someone or they have a lot of feelings, but maybe they're not out yet and they're not really ready to show their feelings in a public way. And of course, Tegan Quinn being ready, of course, like saying like, let's move forward. What's stopping us from just being happy, being together? I mean, we've got this great thing. We tell each other everything. You're practically my best friend. Why can't you do me like you do your boyfriend? Why can't you treat me in every aspect like you would to him? Because it just seems natural for you to do that. But whenever it comes to us, you seem a little bit more hesitant to it. And I think it's a very interesting message here. And I like the way that they get it across. It's a catchy tune. It's maybe not the most directly catchy on the album. I think it's got kind of a little bit of a weird transition from verse to chorus. But at the same time, I think it grips a little bit harder with each listen. Emotions, relationships, and relatability are huge factors that Tegan and Sara have thrived off of their entire career, and they do it well. I give them that, but it does get a little bit old to see the themes just basically circling all throughout the record. I think that's one downfall, one problem that makes some of these songs that just feel a little bit too samey, a little bit too similar to each other, and it makes me forget, okay, was I listening to That Girl or was I listening to White Knuckles? And it gets a little bit confusing. Not to say that the tracks aren't enjoyable, it's just that they're enjoyable at surface level with not as much to dig into, but that became less of an issue the more I played the record. 100 Times is that piano-led ballad that I was talking about that slows things down. I think this is a very well-produced song. It just kind of strips it all back, and it's a story here that we're talking about seeing someone, seeing their significant other, not being able to leave them, not knowing what to say, and then finally pulling the trigger and saying, you know, I wanted to do this so many times, but I didn't know how. And I like how it just kind of fades into just a piano, vocals on this track. It's a nice change of pace. There's still a few vocal glitches here for extra emphasis on a few different words. I mentioned some of these tracks being catchy, but just not beyond like a surface level, and I think that there's a few that I'd like to talk about, just not really throw under a bus, but just kind of highlight as not being favorites of mine. White Knuckles is one of those for me. It's got kind of this shuffling, steady beat building towards the chorus, and I just don't care for the way the vocals were presented on this track. The chorus feels a little bit off, something's just not quite right, and I could say similar things things for that girl, even though this one has grown on me significantly. I think that was a problem I had right off the bat, but I think it's actually slowly evolving into one of my favorite songs in a weird way. It's undeniable that a handful of these tracks are just dance floor ready, and I love the moments that we get like that. I mean, they're extremely fun, and the best part is that it's not like a lot of like sugary pop music. There's actually some substance there. I'm not saying that it's the deepest songs on the record, but tracks like Dying to Know just have this great synth build on it. It's like almost like an EDM drop, but not at the same time because it's a hard-hitting chorus. And then my favorite track on this entire record, U-Turn, probably the catchiest song that I have heard all year long. The synth lead on this track is just phenomenal. It's so 80s-esque. I absolutely love that about it. And the vocals on this track are undeniable. Like I said, probably the catchiest that I've heard all year long. They stick to the eardrums like glue. I'm digging the steady vibe that's going on the final track on the album, Hang On to the Night, another one of my favorite tracks here. It's just like I said, it keeps things going at a nice pace. There's a great synth line that's running throughout there, and I think it's got a good message behind it as well, saying like basically, hold on, take this night. You know, there's another one, there's a future for you. We can do bigger and better things. And I think that message definitely could be like interpreted other ways, but that's what I'm taking away from the track. And I couldn't be more pleased with the way that this album goes out. Sadly, not all of the tracks stick quite as well. I already mentioned White Knuckles, feeling a little bit off to me. I guess I could say similar things for the track Be With You, stylized as BWU. Edgy, I know. To me, it just feels like filler material, and that's not acceptable on a 31-minute long album. There's only 10 songs here, and whenever I feel like 3 or so of those are kind of filler content, then we're having a little bit of an issue. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's like 5 or 6 songs that I really feel like I'm going to be coming back to. Another one that's on the fence, and then a few others that I could just easily kind of discard. So overall, I'm going to say a pretty high replay factor because this album does flow pretty well together, but there are some issues that bring it down a bit for me. I'm going to go with a 3.5 for Tegan and Sara's new album, Love You to Death. If you've heard the latest from the Canadian duo Tegan and Sara, let me know your thoughts on it in the comments section down below. And of course, hit the like button on this video to let me know that you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel because friends don't let friends go unsubscribed. And of course, sound off in the comments with other albums you'd like to see me review. Thanks for watching. You can click directly below me if you'd like to see some of my recent reviews. Other than that, I'll see you very soon right here on ARTV.